what I love about this partnership between Time and Livraria is both of us are steeped in history, as is the Nobel Prize. So the Nobel Prize, first awarded in 1901, I think it was. A few years later, or even 4 or 5 years later, Livraria started its bookshop, and about a decade after that, Time magazine started its first issue in 1923. And what's interesting about the partnership with all three is our celebration of writing. And even when you go back to the early issue, the first issue of Time, which was only about 32 pages, it's lots of the, not only a lot of the advertisers that were in the issue were from bookshops, from the early 1920s, but it opened, the magazine opened up with a national section, and then foreign news, and then a book section, which was really kind of interesting that even back then, the importance of books was certainly in the makeup of how the magazine was being put together. And even the first in that first issue was our first book review. That suggested that Babbitt was suggesting the book to read the book Babbitt, by 1930 Nobel Prize winner Sinclair Lewis. And that was the first book review that was in there. So that's always been an interesting thing, even from its inception, that Time has always celebrated writing. And this partnership seemed just like a great way to continue that, highlighting the works of so many great writers of the past century. So when I first got an email from Livraria and their interest in working with Time, I didn't quite understand exactly what it was going to entail. And so it's been a very interesting, I being the creative director of Time, I've of course never done an exhibition, a physical exhibition that people can actually get to go see and experience. My job is generally, it's an 8 by 10.5 inch cover space every single week. It's a canvas that I have to fill up, and that's generally the space that I work in. But it was such an interesting way to think about how would you partner with this historic bookshop and an historic brand like Time and really showcase the Nobels. And what was interesting about what we all came up with was when you look back at the history of Time, which includes about 5,000 covers, 14 of those 117 or so Nobel Prize for literature winners were featured on the cover of Time. And so what we decided to do was to do part of the exhibit that was highlighting those 14 individuals that made it onto the cover of Time that won the prize. But what was even cooler was Livraria also picked lots of writers who could have been Nobel Prize winners. And if you look at that list, we also featured another 16 covers that featured those individuals. So it was an interesting partnership of being able to highlight not just the winners of the Nobel, but also the great writing that has been out there. And if you look at the history of Time, the first Nobel Prize winner that made it onto the cover was Rudyard Kipling. I think it was back in 1926. He was first on the cover of Time. So we kind of started off with that, and then obviously highlighted several other people. Winston Churchill was on the cover 6 times, Eugene O'Neill 3 times, William Faulkner, and Toni Morrison. And so we were able to kind of showcase with some really great artwork that was done back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s of these individuals to be able to be on the cover and to be able to showcase those. They're going to break down the doors and just rush into the library. I'm just kidding. My hope for those that are coming to the exhibit, one, they're probably wanting to leave their houses and get back into normal life again, which we certainly are trying to do here in the United States. And so that'll be number one. People will just be excited to get back out again. And what beautiful way to do that than to go into the bookshop and to not only experience just the great architecture, but this exhibit that really is just showcasing some of the great writers that have been part of all of our lives in the last century. And I hope people also just get to learn a little bit about the Nobel. And I think what's interesting is, as I was doing a lot of the research in figuring out what Time's involvement is, I was surprised. It's like, really, that person wasn't named the Nobel Prize, or this person was. You kind of go back and forth, and it's just an interesting educational experiment too. And that's kind of what a book does. It gives you great information, and so people will take away. Hopefully, people will take away from this exhibit more information about Nobels and these writers. There's nothing more that I would love to go to Porto, Portugal right now, believe me. And it's just, obviously, as you know, it's difficult to travel right now from the States into Europe. So as soon as possible, I mean, I'm hoping sometime in the fall to be able to do it, or if, certainly the first part of next year, to come and just to be able to experience the exhibit. As I've been able to see most of it digitally and through all the stuff that we've been able to do. But I'm really excited to be able to, walk through the bookshop of photos that I've been looking at for the last several months, and actually kind of stand there and go up those stairs and see not only just the Time covers really big in front of me and experience it that way, but also learn quite a bit about the exhibit and about the bookshop and this partnership together.